I was kicked out of my house on Christmas Eve by my own mother. Not for anything dramatic like drugs or screaming matches. No, she simply told me, while setting down a tray of stuffed mushrooms, "You've served your purpose, honey. It's time you learn to stand on your own." I was 35. I had just paid off the last of her credit card debt, after covering her mortgage for 6 months. After helping plan my golden boy brother's third engagement party, they toasted him that night. In our childhood living room, strung up with blinking lights and full of our family friends, they raised glasses to James, the real entrepreneur of the family. He had launched a drop-shipping business 2 weeks prior, my actual tech startup 3 years old. Funded, 20 employees wasn't mentioned, not once. Instead, my dad clinked his glass, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "Maybe you'll find something real to do next year." The laughter? Deafening. My mother didn't even blink. My uncle slapped me on the back like it was all some joke, then turned back to James to ask about his Shopify theme. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood up, walked upstairs, and started packing. No one followed. No one stopped me. I had done the taxes for this family since I was 16. I fixed every router, paid for the water heater when it busted last winter, even signed as a co-signer on James's condo because his credit was too trash from a failed crypto venture. And now I was a burden, dead weight, something to cut loose. I moved into a short-term rental that smelled like old coffee and despair. My bank account had less than $1,200 in it because every spare cent had gone to the family. I was 35 and starting over. Alone. 2 weeks later, I got a call from my mother, not to check on me. No. She was locked out of her iPad. "I think you need to start remembering who's been there for you," she snapped like I had abandoned her. "This behavior isn't acceptable, young lady." I hung up. That night, I stared at the ceiling and let every memory roll over me. Every favor that became obligation. Every time James got a pass for his failures while I was grilled for my successes. Every time I was told I was being difficult, dramatic, or ungrateful for asking for basic respect. My lowest moment? Finding out James was gifted my grandfather's antique car, the one I had helped restore, the one I was told had been sold to pay off medical bills. He posted it on Instagram, #restoredbeauty, #thanksfam. I lay there in the dark, shaking, not just with rage, with grief. Because somewhere deep down I had still believed they loved me. That's when I knew. They didn't love me. They loved what I did for them. And I was done. For weeks after I left, I said nothing. No updates, no calls, no drive-bys just to check in. I went silent, like a ghost that finally gave up haunting a house that never knew it was dying. And the silence? It drove them insane. It started with the texts. My mother's first was practically a press release. "Hi, sweetie, I hope you're doing well. We were thinking of having a little family dinner next Sunday. James wants to share something important. Let us know if you'll be mature and join us." I didn't answer. She followed up with a group photo of everyone around the table. James, his fiancée, the third one, and my parents, all grinning. My chair was empty. Next came the voicemails, dripping in that carefully engineered concern mothers like mine use to make you feel like you're the villain for bleeding when they cut you. "I just don't understand what's going on with you. This isn't who you are. Your brother needs you. Your father's blood pressure has been high. If something happens to him, that's on your conscience." Ah, there it was. The emotional ransom note. I blocked her number. 2 days later, I got an email titled, "From Dad, please read." It was 4 paragraphs long. 3 of them were about how James had been feeling unsupported lately. And the last one included a charming line, "Families are built on sacrifice. You've had it easy for a long time, and it's time you remember your roots. Had it easy." I reread that line until it blurred. Easy like raising myself while they fought in the next room. Easy like working full-time through college while James partied on their dime. Easy like skipping rent on my first apartment to cover their car repair. But sure, easy. I didn't reply. Instead, I printed it and pinned it to my fridge. Motivation. I started building boundaries like they were survival shelters. I changed every password, shut down access to the shared Spotify, canceled the HBO Max under my name, removed my mother from my Amazon Prime. Petty? Maybe. But each click felt like a stitch in my ripped-apart dignity. They noticed. James called me at 1 a.m. on a Tuesday. Why is Netflix asking for payment info? I could hear his fiancée in the background, laughing at something on her phone. I said, because you're an adult. Then I hung up. The next morning, my mother showed up at my apartment. I didn't let her in. She stood there in a cashmere coat, clutching a casserole dish like a peace treaty. I watched from the peephole as she knocked, then knocked again, then called me while knocking. When I still didn't answer, she left a voicemail I'll never forget. You're being cruel. You owe us for everything we've done. We raised you, we fed you, we sacrificed for you. It didn't sound like love. It sounded like a bill. They began circling in tighter and tighter rings. James posted a cryptic status about family leeches who forget where they came from. My aunt tagged me in an old photo with the caption, "Come back to the light, sweet girl." My cousin messaged me privately, "Is everything okay? Your mom said you're having a breakdown." I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I told her the truth, just a little of it. Enough. She didn't reply, but 2 days later I got a letter in the mail from her, handwritten. 3 pages long. She said she always noticed how I was treated, said she admired how I kept going, said if I ever needed a place to stay or just someone who believed me, she was there. It was the first time I cried in weeks. I folded that letter and kept it in my wallet. Meanwhile, the rest of the family kicked into full gaslight gear. My father called my absence childish. My mother posted photos with captions like, "Some people walk away, but love never does." People commented things like, "Stay strong," and "She'll come back when she matures." Every word was another brick in the wall between us. It was strange, watching them craft this fiction about me. Like I was a character in their little play. The ungrateful daughter, the lost soul, the selfish one who threw it all away. But I wasn't lost. I was finally starting to see clearly. I found an office space. Tiny, dingy, but cheap. I poured myself into my startup like it was the only thing left that made sense. And maybe it was. It was mine, untouched, untainted by their opinions or expectations. One morning during a coffee run, I saw James on the local news. He was doing a segment about young entrepreneurs. He spoke in that fake professional voice he always used when trying to impress women or waiters. The anchor said his drop shipping business had secured a local grant. That grant? I had applied for it months ago. I hadn't heard back. Later that week, a friend forwarded me an event invite. It was a fancy dinner hosted by my father's firm, a networking gala. The invite list was public. Guess whose name was on it? Mine. Not as a guest. As James's +1, I stared at the screen for a long time, heart pounding in my throat. They were still using me, still expecting me to show up, smile, nod, validate, play my role, still treating my life like a spare part in James's engine. I didn't go. Instead, I spent that evening at home, drinking tea and reading my cousin's letter for the 50th time. And I started thinking, really thinking, about what I'd done for this family, about what I'd given, and what they'd taken. I opened a spreadsheet. I started listing everything: loans, payments, bills, down payments, fees, software I'd installed, resumes I'd written, insurance I'd paid, groceries I'd stocked. It was dizzying. It totaled over $120,000, all in my name, all gone. And they called me the leech. I saved the file, labeled it reclamation, and that's when the cold part of me woke up. The one that didn't cry when they called me selfish. The one that stopped needing them to see me. The one that was quietly, methodically planning the silence they hated. That was just me sharpening the knife. It started with a mistake. James accidentally CC'd me on an email meant for our dad. Just a quick one-liner. The old man wants a progress report. I'll send the deck you made last quarter. The deck I made. I opened the attachment. My logo was gone. My name erased. But the charts, the copy, the roadmap I'd bled for, all there. Stripped, rebranded, and passed off as James's latest genius strategy. I stared at my laptop, and something inside me clicked. They weren't just discarding me, they were stealing from me. And suddenly, I didn't feel hurt anymore. I felt clear, cold. I started digging. I checked the shared Google Drive I had used back when I naively helped James get organized. Still active, still filled with docs I'd made. I watched in real time As he downloaded files, I'd created budgets, investor decks, pitch templates, and that local grant he won, my name was still buried in the metadata of the business plan, not scrubbed properly. I screen captured everything. Next, I looked into the condo he was living in, the one I'd co-signed for. I called the property manager and asked for an updated statement. He hadn't paid rent in 4 months. Guess who they were preparing to sue? Not James. Me. My name was the one on the line. My credit, my financial future, my problem. I didn't scream. I didn't even swear. I made a folder on my desktop, named it Detonation. Then I made a phone call to someone I hadn't spoken to in almost 2 years. Carly, my dad's old assistant, fired after she took the fall for one of James's accounting errors. She picked up on the third ring. "Wow," she said. "You're still alive. I have something you'll want to see," I said. Pause. Then a dry chuckle. "Let me guess. James?" Bingo. We met for coffee. She brought a laptop. I brought the truth. It was like building a house out of bones. Every document, every message, every receipt we pieced together told the same story. James had been funneling client leads from my dad's firm to his own project, using insider information, even client lists. And guess what? The old industrialist, my dad's biggest client, the one with the renewable energy empire, he'd been trying to reach me. Apparently, he'd loved a presentation I gave 2 years ago, back when I still showed up to family dinners. Had asked about me 3 times. Was told I was on a sabbatical. Carly gave me his personal assistant's number. I called. He answered. Not his assistant. Him. The founder of X company, he said, voice sharp. Finally. Turns out he had no idea I wasn't with my dad's firm. He'd been ready to move all his contracts over to James until he saw inconsistencies. I sent him the real documents, with dates, signatures, metadata, silence on the other end. Then, I'll be severing ties with your father's firm immediately, and I'd like to move the project under your startup if you're willing. I didn't say yes. I said, let's meet for dinner. And that's how it all came full circle. The same dinner my father had invited me to as James's +1. I walked in through the side entrance, late. The room froze. My dad was mid-toast, James beside him, wearing a smug suit 2 sizes too tight. The industrialist stood up the second he saw me, walked over, shook my hand like I was the damn president. You're the founder of X company? He said, loud enough for the whole room to hear. Perfect. I'm transferring everything to you. James turned purple. My dad opened his mouth, and for once he had nothing to say. I looked around at the table, at my mother's carefully Botoxed face cracking under the weight of confusion, at my uncle, halfway through a shrimp cocktail, frozen mid-chew. I smiled. Then I turned to the industrialist. Let's get out of here, I said. We left. The fallout? Delicious. The next day, I got emails panicked, furious, pathetic from my father, begging to clear things up. From James, demanding I reconsider and not ruin the family name. From my mother, who wrote, You've always had a tendency to overreact. I didn't answer. Instead, I went to the courthouse, filed a motion to remove myself as co-signer on James's condo, attached proof of unpaid rent, forged documents, and a letter from the landlord stating James was in breach. The bank froze his credit. I posted one thing publicly, just one, a side-by-side of the pitch deck metadata, one version with my name, one with James's. Caption, funny how history rewrites itself when you let someone else hold the pen. It went semi-viral. An old classmate messaged me. Damn, you were always the quiet one. Not anymore. I was still tired, still aching in places I didn't know existed. But I wasn't invisible. I was dangerous. And I had one final play to make. The silence didn't last long. 3 days after the dinner detonation, my dad showed up at my office. No warning, no call, just barged in like he still had the right. Can we talk? He asked, already walking past the receptionist. I looked up from my laptop. About what? I said, not moving. He glanced around the room, bare walls, 3 desks, mismatched chairs. He didn't see the client folders, the strategy plans, the momentum. He only saw what was missing. You've made your point, he said, lowering his voice like he was being generous. James messed up. We get it. But that doesn't mean you burn everything down. I stood. I didn't burn it down. You built it on a lie. I just stopped pretending it was solid. He blinked. That old school, jaw tight, father knows best blink. Then he dropped his last card. You'll regret this. Family is family. I stepped closer. Just enough so he had to meet my eyes. Then maybe you should have treated me like it. He left. And that's when the real unraveling began. The industrialist pulled 3 major contracts. Other clients followed. James went into PR overdrive posting videos, vague apologies, stories about partnership confusion and emotional manipulation. None of it stuck, because I posted receipts I emails.spreadsheets, my revoked co-signer agreement, a letter from my attorney. I never said a word about James's character. I didn't need to. The number spoke loud enough. The best part? James's fiancée dumped him, publicly, on a live stream, said she should have listened to the sister. I sent her flowers. Meanwhile, my mother doubled down. She called Carly a traitor, called me vindictive, said I was airing dirty laundry and jealous of James's potential. Potential? The man was 37, with 2 bankruptcies, 3 broken engagements, and 0 assets to his name. But sure, potential. She posted a photo of a framed picture on Facebook. James and me, age 6 and 8, sitting on the front porch with our family dog. Caption, no matter how far someone strays, love will always be here waiting. I didn't respond. Instead, I sent her an invoice. Every expense I had covered since I turned 18.126, $842.55. Attached were receipts, bank statements, checks with her signature. It wasn't about the money, it was about the truth. She called me crying, "You can't be serious. We're your parents. We did our best." Then you'll understand why I'm doing mine. I hung up, filed a small claims case. Did I expect to win? Not really. But that wasn't the point. The point was, she had to show up in court and answer for it. They showed up looking like grief itself, my mother in a gray cardigan. My dad was shaking hands. James didn't come. Of course he didn't. The judge asked why I had loaned them money. I answered plainly, because I was told I owed them, and when I stopped paying, they called it betrayal. The judge ordered them to pay back $38,000. The rest was outside the statute of limitations. I didn't care. I would have taken $1 just to see them flinch. That night, I got a message from my aunt, the one who had always hosted Christmas, who once called me her honorary daughter. She said, "I'm proud of you. I wish I had done what you're doing." I cried for a full hour, not because I was sad, but because I finally felt seen. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the family disappointment. I was the one who broke the cycle. James tried to retaliate. He emailed our old investors, said I was unstable, vindictive, jealous. One of them forwarded me the email with a note, "We know who built this. Good luck, and keep going." So I did. I landed 3 new clients that month, hired 2 interns, got approved for a small business grant. My company was finally breathing on its own. No handouts. No stolen decks, no family leverage, just me. I heard from a neighbor that James had moved back home, that his car was repossessed, that my dad lost 2 of his oldest clients after the scandal broke. Poetic, really. The house that was always too loud with judgment and lectures and shame, now full of quiet. They tried reaching out again. My mother sent a birthday card. A flat, empty thing with glitter flowers and no note inside. Just a check for $500. I mailed it back, ripped in half. James sent a message on LinkedIn. "We're still siblings. I hope you know I love you." I blocked him. They lost the right to call it love when they made me earn it by erasing myself. I no longer needed their version of love. The kind that kept score, the kind that cost my dignity. I found a new kind. With Carly, who became my operations manager. With my cousin, who texts me every week and brings wine over on Sundays. With myself, most of all. One morning, I stood in the kitchen of my tiny apartment, coffee in hand, music playing. My inbox pinged, new client, big one. I didn't celebrate right away. I just stood there and breathed. Because peace after chaos feels almost suspicious at first, like silence after a storm. But I let it settle. I let it be. Because the girl who once begged for a seat at her family's table now owned the building. It's funny what you miss when the chaos ends. Not the people, not the screaming matches disguised as family dinners, not the guilt-laced favors or the text messages that felt more like commands. No, you missed the rhythm of it. Like a song you hated, but that still played every morning for years. And when it stops, you catch yourself listening for it in the quiet. But eventually, the silence stops sounding like absence and starts sounding like peace. It's been 11 months since the dinner, 10 since the court case, 8 since James tried to get a job at a firm that now contracts with me. He didn't get it. Apparently, they didn't want to bring family drama into the workplace. I didn't even have to say a word. I still get updates I don't ask for. Family has a way of whispering behind your back, especially when you refuse to sit at their table anymore. I heard my dad's firm quietly shut down the branch office I helped build. I heard James started a podcast about resilience and self-branding. He called himself a survivor of betrayal. I almost choked on my coffee. My mother still tries. Little things. A comment under an old Facebook post. A message sent through my aunt. A voicemail on my work phone that somehow ends with a reminder that you only get one family. I don't respond. Because here's the truth, you get one life. And I'm not wasting another second of mine waiting to be chosen by people who only valued me when I was useful. I live differently now. Smaller, maybe. Quieter. But free. I have a studio that smells like lavender and ink. A dog named Murphy who barks at leaves and snores like a cartoon character. Friends who show up. Clients who listen. And most of all, I have me. Not the hollowed-out version I was spending every drop of energy earning a love that was always conditional. Not the bitter, burning shell who planned revenge like it was the only way to feel power. No, I'm the me who wakes up without dread in her chest, who walks into meetings without hearing her father's voice in her head asking if she's wearing that to look smart or pretty, who eats what she wants, says what she means, leaves when it hurts. The me who no longer fears being called selfish, because for once, I am. And it's the healthiest thing I've ever done. I didn't go to Thanksgiving. My cousin invited me to her Friendsgiving instead. It was cozy, chaotic, full of laughter and sweet potatoes with marshmallows that caught fire a little bit. At one point, someone spilled wine on my sweater. Everyone panicked, but I just laughed. I'll survive, I said, and meant it. Christmas rolled around. My phone stayed quiet. Not a single call from the family that once demanded I host, cook, clean, smile, gift, and apologize all in the same night. I lit a candle, put on my playlist, wrapped a gift for myself. A small necklace, one charm, a tiny key. I don't know why I bought it. Maybe because it reminded me that I finally owned the door to my own life and had the power to lock it. Or maybe because, for the first time, I no longer needed to knock on anyone else's. 1 week later, I got one last letter from my mother, handwritten, slanted cursive. I'm sorry if we made you feel unloved. That was never the intention. But we are your family, and it hurts to be shut out. You've always been strong, maybe too strong. But I still hope, one day, we can sit at the same table again. There was no apology for the debt, for the lies, for the manipulation. Only the usual script, we didn't mean to, you misunderstood. Come back, be softer. I folded it, slid it into the back of a drawer, not to forgive, not to forget, but to remember, because memory is armor, and I've learned how to wear mine with grace. Sometimes people ask if I miss them. I think of James's laugh when he watched them mock me. I think of my mother's voice saying, "You've served your purpose." And I think of the night I walked out, suitcase in hand, and no one tried to stop me. So no, I don't miss them. I miss who I hoped they were. But grieving the dream of a family is not the same as needing one. And I don't. Not anymore. I send money to a women's shelter now. Quietly. Monthly. Because I know what it feels like to be alone, broke, and made to believe you're nothing without the people who broke you. I give my interns paid mental health days. I keep a folder on my desktop called Sunlight. Photos of my new life. Murphy asleep under my desk. My best friend's baby in my lap. A thank you email from a young woman who said my company made her feel seen. No holiday dinners. No passive-aggressive toasts. No performance forgiveness. Just real things. Real people. And me. Whole. I used to think revenge would fix everything. But revenge is just the echo. What really heals you? Silence. Distance. And the kind of freedom that isn't loud or flashy or cinematic. The kind that feels like waking up and not flinching. Like breathing without asking permission. Like knowing you don't owe anyone an explanation for saving yourself. They say I'm heartless now, that I'm cold. that I abandoned the ones who raised me. Let them talk. Let them turn my story into whatever makes them sleep at night. I don't care. Because the only version of the story that matters is the one I live every day. And here's how it ends. They said I was heartless, but for once, I put my heart first. And it finally beats for me. Story 2. My wife and her buddies had me trapped. They chuckled and abandoned me in the middle of nowhere after their innocent joke. I only made one phone call and didn't become upset. When I dismissed 34 men the following morning, they were all fired. I've always thought of myself as a rather laid-back individual. When things go wrong, I'm not the kind to stir things up or look for retribution. However, there are moments in life when you simply must maintain your ground. My 32-year-old wife, Eliza, has maintained a close friendship with her college pals throughout the years. Vanessa, a 33-year-old HR manager at a prominent software business, is one example. 32-year-old marketing executive, narrative, a financial advisor on page 34, and Tessa, a 31-year-old corporate salesperson. These women travel together every year, have weekly wine sessions, and generally think of themselves as inseparable. Being the odd one out has always been me. I'm essentially invisible whenever we all get together, and they have these inside jokes from their time in college. They've made it quite obvious that I'm just Eliza's husband to them, despite my attempts to establish a connection. In any case, I have buddies of my own. Last weekend, the event took place at what was meant to be a couple's getaway. For a cabin weekend, all of the ladies brought their spouses. We booked a house in the middle of the woods, with sporadic mobile connection about 2 hours out from the city. However, the main road about a mile away from the property itself had good signal. Eliza was happy, so I consented, even though I wasn't pleased about spending the weekend with folks who hardly even noticed my existence. Tessa and her husband Derek, Meredith and her boyfriend Jared, Vanessa and her husband Greg, Eliza and I, and Paige and her husband Kyle were the couples. Things went well on Friday night. We played games, drank beverages, and barbecued. While the males spoke about business and sports, the women reminisced about their time in college. Vanessa proposed that we all participate in the intricate scavenger hunt she had organized on Saturday afternoon. We were divided into groups. I was with Meredith's boyfriend, Jared, and Tessa's husband, Derek. Compared to the others, our hint took us farther into the forest. After around 45 minutes, Derek received a text message informing him that there was an issue at the cabin and that we needed to return right away. There was no one. No automobiles, nothing. Only a message on the door, "You got it. I hope you guys are able to return to society. XOXO, everything was taken by the boys and gals. They turned off and concealed our phones, which were in the cabin. Everything, including our vehicle keys and wallets. The door to the cabin was locked. Only the clothing we were wearing were with us." Derek began to panic. I was silently fuming as Jared nervously laughed while stating the typical Meredith prank. With the exception of a single location on a hill about a quarter-mile distant where you might occasionally receive one bar, the cabin was in a cellular dead zone. The good news is that Derek managed to keep his phone in his pocket during the treasure quest. We were the only ones that did. After almost an hour of hiking to the hill, Derek eventually managed to get enough signal strength to make one call. I didn't call Eliza, but he allowed me to use his phone. I gave my friend Nathan, a NIT security professional, a call. In order to be prepared to assist, I briefly summarized the circumstances and inquired if he would want to know Eliza's newest whereabouts after I returned to society. By this time, Derek was having trouble breathing. His inhaler was back in the cabin, although he did explain that he had minor asthma. We looked all throughout the cabin for more than an hour, but we couldn't find a spare key. The sun was beginning to drop, and Derek's breathing was becoming worse. We decided to walk in search of assistance. We walked 7 kilometers to the closest petrol station, which took over 3 hours. It was dark at that point. I was thirsty. Derek's asthma was much worse, and my feet were blistered. We received some kindness from a kind stranger. A stranger assisted us. A trip to the closest town, where we rested at a budget hotel. Derek's breathing improved somewhat when the front desk receptionist offered him some over-the-counter allergy medication, but his condition remained poor. I call Eliza on Sunday and am using the hotel's lobby phone. What did she say? "It was only a joke, darling. Our expectation was that you would all figure it out sooner. A spare key was put beneath the swing on the back porch. You checked there, didn't you? Whoa! And wait till you see the film of you people screaming out that we acquired from the hidden camera. Now we're all at brunch. In a few hours, we'll come grab you all. Without answering, I hung up. Then something clicked. To capture our responses, they had installed cameras throughout the cabin. I requested permission from the motel clerk to check my email on the computer at the front desk. He concurred, and I noticed that all of the group members had already begun sharing footage from the covert cameras on social media. In order to upload everything last night while we were walking for assistance, they had drove back to the main road, where they had cell service. We came up with a strategy when I contacted Nathan again from the hotel lobby phone. I made the decision to hold off on taking any more action until Monday. I wanted to see how they would behave when they picked us up and what else they would publish. Things began to happen by Monday morning. Let's just say that it's not the best idea to capture your funny prank on hidden cameras, share it on social media, and distribute the footage to your coworkers. I'll provide updates as this develops. When a victim of yours realizes that enough is enough. On Monday night, provide an update. I want to start by saying thank you for all of the comments' support. This didn't blow out the way I thought it would. Allow me to elaborate on Sunday and this morning when I ended Eliza's call. She called the hotel repeatedly. I didn't answer. Derek was still suffering from a flare-up of his asthma. If his breathing didn't get better by morning, he was thinking about seeing urgent care. Jared said that we should simply laugh it off. But when I showed him that they had posted videos of us on social media appearing bewildered and frantic, I could see that even he was furious. A few of Meredith's colleagues had previously made remarks along the lines of, "Lol savage," and these guys can't take a joke. Around 3 p.m., Eliza and Vanessa finally arrived. Before they noticed our faces in Derek's state, they were grinning. Derek called Tessa right away to confront her about his asthma attack. Jared simply climbed inside the car without a word. To put it mildly, the travel back was stressful. Eliza attempted to hide it when we arrived home. "Sweetheart, it was only an innocent joke. We didn't anticipate that you would need to trek so far. Throughout, the extra key was under the swing. Do you realize Derek could have had a serious medical emergency out there?" I asked her, glancing at her. "Do you find it amusing to leave someone stranded without money, a phone, medicine, or a means of transportation?" She became defensive. "You're being so theatrical, my God." The men found it amusing. I asked the men. Kyle, however, found it amusing. He was the one who proposed installing the cameras and concealing the phones. Paige's husband, Kyle, is an investment banker and has always been the group's alpha male. "Are you implying that Kyle came up with the concept for the joke?" I inquired in a neutral tone of voice. "Yeah, but it was amusing to all of us. Greg assisted with the camera setup. Even Vanessa's employer thought the video was amazing when she uploaded it to her work chat." I knew I had more than enough at that point. I fell silent, told her I needed time to myself, and went to the guest room to sleep. Her buddies were sending her jokes, and she was messaging me memes on how to handle them. I implemented my strategy on Sunday night this morning. I had already sent Nathan images of their shared movies and social media postings via email. He assisted me in properly organizing and documenting everything. I emailed Vanessa's company's human resources department early on Monday. The director of marketing at Meredith's company, the vice president of sales at Tessa's company, and the regional manager at the financial firm where Paige works. On Sunday night, once we returned to civilization, I spent hours recording everything. I didn't require any specialized tech or hacking knowledge. Their public Facebook postings and Instagram stories included the footage. In the posts that showed us stranded, they had really tagged their coworkers and places of employment. Vanessa wrote plainly, as they planned everything in their group conversation, which they uploaded, "Let us ensure that Derek is not in possession of his inhaler. When he panics, it will be more hilarious. We should do this to the new hires," Tessa and Paige suggested in a video while giggling as a way to foster teamwork. I didn't tell everyone at once. Enough. They also uploaded the hidden camera footage of us frantically looking for assistance. They planned to take Derek off his medicine, according to the screenshots of their group conversation. The character-building social media posts in which they boasted about abandoning us. They chuckled on the TikTok about how unpleasant it was outside with the bugs and no water. I'm not spiteful enough to demand their termination. All I wanted was for their employers to see their true selves. But professionalism counts, and acts have repercussions. Vanessa texted our group chat this morning. "What the fuck is going on? HR recently summoned me to an urgent meeting. My employer then wants to meet me because of my behavior, which is inappropriate for a financial advisor. Is that unclear? What's happening?" It's there. I recently received an email from my director regarding a frightening film that is going around. I'm going crazy. My customer, Tessa, just terminated our agreement and specifically pointed to my lack of empathy and judgment as the reason I require that commission. Angry, Eliza stormed inside the home during lunch. "What did you do?" "They claim that you included the videos we discuss in your business emails. They were confidential." I simply shrugged. I just sent their firms their own public social media posts, along with a brief explanation of the situation. "In these videos, your friends have already labeled their places of employment. I just ensured that their managers were aware of the associations with their businesses." All afternoon long, she has been destroying my phone. It appears that Vanessa has been placed on leave while the inquiry is ongoing. Paige's client accounts have been deleted. Tessa lost her largest customer, and Meredith's staff is being moved. Kyle claimed it was a joke, dude, and called me a vengeful asshole. Intriguingly, Derek texted me privately. "I ought to have defended myself. I appreciate you accomplishing what I was unable to. When I have more information, I'll update. Until Eliza stops tossing my clothing in the yard, I'm now residing at my brother's house." Wednesday is the second update. The past 48 hours have been crazy. I'll make an effort to keep this update concentrated on the significant advancements. First, to address the most often asked topic, Eliza and I are still legally married, but things aren't going well. She alternated between calling me a monster who destroyed her friend's life over a pointless disagreement, which ended with her being hospitalized, and pleading with me to make things right by phoning everyone and claiming that everything was a misunderstanding. She did this for the entirety of Monday night and Tuesday. I declined. There was no miscommunication here. They boasted about it, shared it, and documented it as a conscious act. There's been serious professional repercussions. Yesterday, the NSA was dismissed. She had already been on thin ice for fostering a hostile work atmosphere, it turns out. And the last straw was this. She has been calling me all kinds of derogatory names on my phone. Paige has been placed on probation and demoted. Since her clients have been moved, she will essentially receive no incentive this year. Compared to the others, Meredith's firm is more concerned with its image. She has had to do compassion training, and she hasn't worked with clients for at least 6 months. After the first client spoke, Tessa lost 3 more. Her entire income comes from commission-based sales. She is therefore in a panic, overpaying her mortgage. Kyle continues to act haughtily, sending me menacing texts about how I've created a lifelong enemy. Anyway, man, here, you're not precisely the master criminal. Derek's action was the most unexpected. He asked if we could get coffee together when he phoned me yesterday. He informed me that he ultimately made the decision to divorce Tessa following his asthma episode and saw how contemptuous everyone was of it. It seems that she has a habit of making fun of him for amusement, and this prank was simply the most recent. He expressed gratitude to me for unintentionally providing him with the necessary wake-up call. Jared texted Meredith yesterday to end their relationship. She yelled that I had poisoned him against her when she arrived at our place while I was getting additional clothing. Last night, Eliza finally quit standing up for her pals. Vanessa had just informed her that I was always the issue and that Eliza ought to have chosen someone who could take a joke, she said when she contacted me in tears. It seems that even Eliza is too much of a liability for Vanessa now that she is unemployed. Is it possible for us to speak tonight? Eliza inquired. I concurred, but I'm not hopeful. She took part in leaving me alone in the woods, shared recordings of it, laughed about it, and then justified everyone's behavior until they betrayed her. A healthy marriage isn't precisely built on that. Nobody losing their jobs or relationships is anything I'm celebrating. I didn't intend to do that. For the first time in their lives, I wanted them to face the repercussions. These are 30-something individuals who found it amusing to leave folks in the woods without food or a way to go home. It isn't a harmless joke. It's harsh and hazardous. After I speak with Eliza tonight, I'll provide an update. The last update. After a week. I believe this will be my last update on the matter, as it has been a week since everything happened. As scheduled, Eliza and I had supper together last Wednesday. Instead of being the angry person who had been destroying my phone for days, she was quiet. She began by claiming that her pals had betrayed her and shown their true selves. The once things became difficult. They had apparently begun accusing her of marrying such a vengeful jerk and implying that she must have known my true nature in their group chat, which I never participated in. I asked her a straightforward question. Would you still believe it was a harmless joke if Derek had passed away from his asthma attack outside? She was unable to respond. She finally acknowledged that she had fallen victim to the group mindset. I sometimes become someone I don't recognize when I'm with them, she added. I didn't consider the repercussions. All I wanted to do was join in on the joke. I informed her that I wanted some time to consider whether our marriage could move past this. I understand, she responded, nodding. We decided on a 1-month trial separation. For the others, Vanessa has been looking for a job urgently, but she has already been rejected by 3 firms. Calm as a bitch, Paige's husband Kyle eventually had his revenge after looking through her references. After a client complained about his frat boy activities, his business conducted an internal inquiry and discovered some troubling emails. He is now on leave. Meredith, who was laughing at Derek's panic crisis only days before, is attempting to reinvent herself on LinkedIn as an expert in empathy. Derek and Tessa are formally divorcing one another. He claims that for the first time in years, he feels as like he can breathe and is staying with his brother. I didn't mean to pun. Jared truly apologized to me after reaching out. He said that he had always been uneasy about the dynamics of the group, but had never had the courage to speak out till we had a beer yesterday. I've been considering my part in all of this. Was I too severe? Perhaps I might find a less nuclear alternative. Maybe. However, after being left in the woods and seeing Derek's fight for air as they all laughed, I was treated as though I were invisible for years. I just broke something. The fact that none of them, not even Eliza, exhibited genuine regret at first is what irritates me the most. They didn't realize their actions were bad. They only felt regret when they had to deal with the fallout. For now, I'm staying with my brother. Eliza began her treatment last Friday, and she texts every day, occasionally with updates. She occasionally just says she misses me. I'm not yet prepared to return, similar to a mirror's trust. You can glue it back together if it breaks, but the fissures will always be visible. I'm not sure if Eliza and I will be able to get along. I kind of wish we could. But there's more. She laughed while I was lost in the woods, and I wonder if I'll ever be able to look at her without remembering that. I suppose the pranks at other people's expense are the lesson to be learned from this. Aren't even pranks. All they are is cruelty masquerading as comedy. And when the roles are reversed, sometimes those who distribute it are unable to handle it. Thank you for your support and for reading. I sincerely hope that I won't ever need to publish an update of this nature. Story 3. I want a divorce. My wife texted me. I said all communication through my lawyer. I get it. I then terminated all of her financial assistance and canceled her credit cards. Her lawyer called me excitedly 72 hours later. The initial post, I-42, though basically simply running on autopilot, I'm still digesting. Strangely peaceful. It was 3 days ago, Tuesday afternoon, working hard, spreadsheets. It buzzed on my phone. Olivia, my wife, 39F. It was a brief text. Brutal. Ethan and Olivia, I'd like a divorce. Please use Mr. Peterson, my attorney, for all future correspondence. Here are his contact information. A 15-year marriage ended by text message. Not a warning. The previous evening, we had supper together, discussed plans for the weekend. Typical. This was not recommended at all. I spent about 5 minutes staring at it. Startled. I was hurt. Anger. Yes. They're all seething underneath the surface. Icy clarity. The conditions were set by her, just attorneys. All right, my response. I get it. Then reality stepped in. Informal marriage agreements were immediately nullified through legal means. For day-to-day operations, we always kept our primary finances apart. My parents' nasty divorce taught me that lesson. She had a personal account. My credit cards were with me. Olivia had more cards linked to my accounts. Only approved user status. not shared ownership. I gave permission to log into financial applications. Click cards.cancelled.reported. The user is no longer permitted, Tom pleaded. Permission. I moved a certain amount each month to her personal account so she could spend it anyway, she pleased. I'm logged into my bank. The recurring transfer was canceled with instant effect. Subscriptions that are shared, Prime, Netflix, etc. in my name. All other devices were logged out, passwords were changed. She desires streaming. She purchases it, automobile. My name is on the lease for the vehicle she drives. My insurance did not instantly terminate. It's too dangerous for everyone on the road, but I've made a note to speak with my lawyer as soon as possible about the lease transfer. A gas card linked to a credit card cancellation, now useless. Perhaps half an hour, not retaliation, simply embracing the new reality that she imposed. The line was drawn by her, just attorneys. All right. Attorneys deal with legal agreements rather than presumptions based on marriage. She simply stopped. An hour later, she received an email with her lawyer's details. Sent them directly to renowned divorce lawyer Miss Cole. Miss Cole received a text message from a coworker recommending that she solely comply with divorce attorneys. I need quick advice on what to do next. Retainer advice on asset protection. I completed my job project. Went home in person. Her home was deserted. I guess she packed while I was away. Did you sleep well? Remarkably. Go ahead, 72 hours. Friday afternoon. Unknown figure. Rings. Felt something. Hi there, is this Ethan? What's Ethan's last name? The voice was sharp and impatient. Mr. Peterson is here. Olivia is represented by me. The last name of Olivia. There are some challenges for my client. All right, level up your voice. Her card has been declined. Money stopped suddenly. Very erratic. His last name is Mr. Ethan. Generally speaking, Mr. Peterson, the financial status quo is preserved during separation. Calmly, I said, my wife demanded a divorce via text message on Tuesday, saying that you must be the channel for all correspondence. I obeyed and acknowledged. Unofficial financial agreements stopped. Formal legal discussion is required for future support through you and my retained attorney, Miss Cole. Hold on, shuffling of papers. Now she needs money. Essentials. Make accommodations. Make accommodations. Sincere surprise. Where is she? Not relevant. You behave dishonestly. Mr. Peterson abruptly interrupted her. Voice cooler now. My wife unilaterally ended our marriage via text and set the lawyer's only rule. She ended the status quo of trust and communication. Financial support will be determined legally, not by frantic calls over declined cards. She wasn't the primary holder of longer pause. My client seeks emergency financial relief, he said stiffly. Her prerogative, I replied. Direct filings to my attorney, Miss Cole. You have her details? Indeed, he clipped. Excellent. Conversation concluded per my wife's directive. Good day. Hung up. Heart pounding now. Adrenaline kicking in, but also validation. She wanted cold and legal. She's getting it. That's right. Waiting for Miss Cole's call. This is just the start. One update. After a week. Been a week since the text things heated up, as expected. Thanks for the comments, DMs. Good to know I'm not nuts. Miss Cole got back same day, Mr. Peterson called. She's good, confirmed. My actions were logical. Given Olivia's text advised, document everything. Mr. Peterson's first move came Monday. Formal request for emergency temporary spousal support, plus exclusive use of the marital home, which she'd already left. LOL, the amount astronomical, basically wanted me to fund her old lifestyle, plus new housing, plus legal fees. Entitlement level expert. Miss Cole responded countered with much lower temporary support based on actual need not want. Noted she left the home I still occupy, highlighted her lawyer's only rule and my actions as a direct consequence. Then the personal attacks began. Olivia's BFF Haley called Wednesday night, answered, hoping for intel. Real mistake. Ethan. What the actual fuck? No. Hi there? Haley tiredly. Don't. Haley. Me. Olivia's on my couch. You cut her off. She couldn't buy groceries, making her homeless. Haley. Olivia demanded divorce via text. Just attorneys. I respected her wishes. Bullshit. She barely works. How can she live? She's terrified. Olivia's part-time graphic design work generates one cash month, largely fun money. before she hired a lawyer, before talking to me. I replied, genuine financials go through him and my lawyer. The process she selected nasty, vicious. After 15 years, she was emotional, made a mistake. Instructing attorneys exclusively is a distinct blunder. Haley was employing Mr. Peterson, also a mistake. Quiet. Then she deserved support. You always took care of her. And I would have handled things nicely if she hadn't nuked the marriage by text and lawyered up. She set the rules. We follow them today. You'll be taken for everything by her. Haley spat. She may give it a go. Calmly, I filed lawfully. It's handled by my lawyer. Not going into greater detail about this. Farewell. Click. I'm the terrible guy because I did what I was told. Her story is one of blatant victimization. Yesterday, I too received a bank alert, an effort to take money out of a previous savings account. It turns out that we created a joint account a long time ago and forgot about it entirely. We didn't have any active finances. About $500 was all that was left in it. It seems that Olivia located the debit card and attempted to use it. The bank immediately went there, explained the impending divorce, and froze the account pending a court order after noticing the unexpected activity on the inactive account. It's not about the cash. It's an effort. Although her attorney accuses me of acting in bad faith, Ms. Cole claims that this is beneficial to us. Displays Olivia is actively seeking alternatives to the process rather than merely waiting passively. She made a demand. Awaiting the hearing for emergency help, Olivia, the court date, is still lounging on Haley's couch. It must be clear to Mr. Peterson that his client anticipated receiving a blank check. Not truth. Less astonishment, more grim resolve. This is going to be terrible. 3 weeks later, update 2. Well, the dirtiness increased. Startling. I am aware. Last week I had the emergency support hearing. Olivia seemed anxious, avoiding my eyes. Mr. Peterson said that my malevolent activities had left her penniless. Miss Cole delivered the passage with composure. Olivia simply started with attorneys. I terminated my supplemental cards, according to my bank statements. Reimbursement connected to my accounts. After the text proof, I continued to pay my mortgage, utilities, lease, insurance, and significant fixed expenditures, which is proof that she tried to deplete the dormant, forgotten joint account after requesting attorneys. Her income, which was based on her part-time work, demonstrated that she wasn't impoverished, she was simply lacking discretionary money. Judge didn't believe the theatrical Mr. Peterson was putting on. I'm not intimidated, Olivia muttered, when asked why there had been no previous conversation. Judge appeared doubtful. The outcome? Compared to their figure, the temporary assistance order was much closer to ours. Enough for the necessities, payment for legal bills, but no money for her previous way of life. Judge essentially informed Olivia what she had done. Although it avoided a bullet, the text that led to the account drain attempt contributed to her current predicament. They weren't done, but it seemed that way. The actual games began this week. My Air Anonymous Complaints Dirty Trick Number 1 call. Alleged use of business funds for private legal matters. False only used email and SMS on personal devices, and his inconsistent conduct suggested instability. Fortunately, my supervisor is familiar with me. The complaint lacked specificity. Logs that were air-tested. Nothing. Have a little conversation with me. Calmly went over the fundamentals. Dismissed. Blatant effort to interfere with my work. Low miss called and noted it. Adds to the pattern, but is difficult to verify as an anonymous source. Second dirty trick. Tears Olivia's mother phoned. Charges. How were you able to? She's having trouble. Judge. Unjust. Give her extra cash. Consider the year she bestowed to you. The same answer. Olivia made this decision. Financial matters are handled by lawyers. Per her instruction. Not able to talk about it. Heartless. Called. And hung up. Persistent manipulation of emotions. They genuinely believed that I would continue to pay indefinitely. My answer. Defending reason in the face of criticism. Their strategies just made things clearer. Reacting alone was insufficient. I have to take aggressive steps to protect my legal standing and block potential manipulators. Strictly, according to the CARS literature. Mr. Peterson received a letter from Miss Cole. A temporary support system was put in place. Olivia must take care of the vehicle, return it, or take over the lease if eligible. Next cycle, I quit making payments. The insurance coverage I had retained would expire 30 days later. Her issue must be resolved within the bounds of the law. Since she left, the house sued for legal exclusive usage, but the judge denied it to her. Began the sales appraisal process. Because of her financial situation, a buyout is doubtful, establishing unambiguous legal authority. Asset Division is advocating for complete financial discovery right away. Suspect her of having hidden assets. Transparency is needed. Legally required concealment. House was having court issues, recording instances of harassment. Every deceptive call was logged. The complaint at work. Dates. An overview of the times. Miss Call claims that there is a pattern of dishonest methods. Affects the ultimate settlement. Legal charges. Retaliation isn't the point. It's about carefully handling the matter within the legal parameters she set, particularly since that they were using deceitful methods. The job complaint went too far, necessitating swift, aggressive legal action. Olivia broke her own rule yesterday by sending me a direct SMS. "You can't take the automobile, Ethan. How am I going to go anywhere?" Put an end to this. Took a screenshot. Forwarded to Miss Cole. "As instructed by you," Olivia replied. "Date any correspondence through attorneys. Speak with Mr. Peterson. Quiet." 6 months later, the last update. The text divorce was formalized last month, which is around 7 months ago. It seems so long ago. It's time for the last update. The previous half year was lawful. Trench warfare. Mr. Peterson was late. Olivia engaged in play. The victim was turned down. Fair offerings. The vehicle. Big battle. She was ineligible for a lease. Take control. Refused to give it back. Mr. Peterson made the case for need, Miss Cole retorted. Basic transport is covered by temp assistance. The deadline has gone. Told the lease company I wasn't making the payment. She didn't have permission. Driver. The car was taken back from outside Haley's residence. Haley starts calling frantically. Olivia's mother. Disregarded. Forwarded to Miss Cole. Olivia is enraged, but she is legally surrounded by the repercussions of her inactivity. The house sold its exclusive use order quickly, and the equity was kept in escrow until it was divided. Olivia pushed for more, asserting a lack of financial resources, finding of finances. The kicker made a forceful push. Olivia had to tell. She had a separate savings account, it turned out. She forgot about her parents' years-long donations and some inherited investments. More than the $500 in the inactive joint account, but not by much. Mr. Peterson made the case for distinct property. Miss Cole was able to maintain the marital funds unaltered by proving commingling. Although the judge pointed out that the time, character, and ultimate procedures did not result in damages, but rather strengthened the case of ill faith, the anonymous complaint lacked clear proof. The final settlement was reached just before a disputed trial judge expressed frustration with Olivia's pretrial strategies. Facing a worse situation and maybe having to pay my expenses. Olivia concurred. Resources.equity. House. Almost 50/50ths. I have a little advantage because of her concealed assets, stocks that are split up as marital property. She held on to her meager personal funds. Limitations on spousal support time. 2 years of treatment. Alimony that is far less than what is required is sufficient to ease her transition. Not provide funds for the previous way of life till self-sufficiency is achieved. Each paid their own legal expenses. Fighting for her to pay my was averted with a victory. The aftermath. Olivia works more, lives in a tiny apartment, and complains about money in an oblique way. After Olivia became a burden, Haley pulled away. Parents are probably still assisting. Apologies. Zero apologies. Appears perplexed even now. I did more than simply provide for her after the explosion. The entitlement is well ingrained. She truly believed she owed her way of life. In any case, I had a terrible 7 months, costly and stressful. I'm okay though. Better, in fact. Calm after closure. It's a big chapter. Maintained the integrity of my work. Learned fair asset sharing. I approached situations strategically, going to the gym. Olivia didn't like seeing pals. Do you like my peaceful home? No Hollywood retaliation. just the gradual grinding effects of her decisions. Encountering rational legal opposition. She desired legal and official. I understand. That satisfaction in the face of all the harsh financial realities. Enough. I appreciate the room to rant. Really helpful. It's time to proceed.